All right. To get back to things, I want to welcome everybody here to our Gala program event. We're so excited to have all of you here in person and also the people that are joining us virtually. So we thank you for your support of this event. We also, have this opportunity tonight to mark a special occasion to honor one of the special people, all that have been affected by leukodystrophy. All of you have been impacted by the work that Ann Moser has done over her lifetime of dedication to research in leukodystrophy, and still continues to do that and work hard. So we have to thank her for all that she's done for the ULF and for all the families that are affected by leukodystrophy. Ann and her husband, Hugo, helped start the ULF Foundation 40 years ago. So we've been here for 40 years, and we're so excited about that. I know for myself personally, we came in contact with ULF in 1994 when our son Kevin was diagnosed with ALD. And so that was our first experience with this disease and with this community. So all I know is I spent time with Hugo that first conference, and there was always a long line of people that wanted to talk to Hugo. Well, he always stayed until there was nobody left in the line. So that was telling us that the man had his heart in the right place. So that was good. So all I can say is thank you for all that's been done. You and Hugo have always been the best support for all the leukodystrophy families, so we appreciate all that you've done. So at this time, I'd like to introduce you to a young man. Well, he was young when I first knew him. Dr. Wolfgang Kohler is going to be our MC for tonight's program. Dr. Kohler has been a part of the ULF, and I believe it's about 37 years that he's been coming to our meetings, and I think there's probably only 2 that he may have missed over that time period. So he's been a great supporter of the ULF, and he's also been a very good friend of Ann and Hugo over the years, and there's been a lot of collaboration with them. So we really appreciate all that he's done, and I appreciate him coming up here so I don't have to do all the talking tonight. So thank you. So with that said, I'm going to turn this over to Dr. Kohler, and he's going to lead our tribute to Ann and Hugo's work as well. So thank you. Have fun.
Yeah, thank you, Bob. Well, when he asked me to do a Master of Ceremony, I didn't know what it is, but I know you're getting old. So, beside that, well, this is a great pleasure and a big honor to be here with all of you, my friends, colleagues, families, to have this celebration on this wonderful person, Ann Moser. And I think there's no person in the world who deserves more such an evening like this. So I hope that we really have a nice evening together. And with this, I say welcome, bienvenue to this Moser Tribute Gala. So Lauren asked me, I should tell how all this happens. Yeah, and I can tell you it's a very strange situation. I remember this summer night in '85 when I came for the first time to Kennedy Krieger Institute with a patient, actually, from Germany. It was my first patient. And I remember Hugo sitting there in the light of his office, lonely, writing things. And I got to know this wonderful person, Hugo Moser, and later on also Ann Moser. And I can say this changed really my life, this experience. Since then, I was dedicated to the leukodystrophies and adrenal leukodystrophy. So I cannot explain how it happens, but it still happens. And sometimes things happening to you. And it was a very strange situation. They had these first patients diagnosed in Berlin at that time, in Germany. And I say, well, there's only one place in the world you can go with this disease. It's Baltimore. You have to go to Baltimore. I say to the patient, go to Baltimore. And he went to his health insurance and said, well, my doctor's saying I have to go to Baltimore. You have to pay for it. And I say, yes. It was 85. They say yes. And in addition, they not only say yes, they say, well, you need an accompany. You need somebody who is accompanying you to Baltimore. And so we asked his friends, the family, and nobody wants to go. And then he came back to my office and said, hey, doctor, why don't you want to go with me? And this is why I went to Baltimore, and the health insurance is paying for my trip. Isn't that great? So, but I wanted to talk, I'm not the only one who was talking tonight. There are a lot of people who want to say something. And the first speaker will be Greg Hoffer, coming up here. Greg is... He's a pioneer for the ULF, and he is a co-founder of the ULF, and it's your place here.
You can check with my wife. I've been practicing this presentation for the last 2 days. So 41 years ago, I got a call from Dr. Hugo Moser at our home in Indianapolis. And that home was populated at the time by myself, my late wife, Carolyn, our son, Jason, who had recently been diagnosed with ALD, and our daughter, Bettina, who was 4 at the time. Now, before I talk about the call that he made, I thought I might give you some background. When our son was diagnosed, there was no foundation. There was nowhere to get any information. And finally, after searching for some time, I ran into Dr. Moser. And I can remember talking to him about the fact that it was so hard to get any information about what was going on. And I think I must have mentioned to him a couple of times, why isn't there a foundation? And he was very quiet on that. And finally, at one point in time, I go, Doc, I mean, Kennedy Krieger, you guys got a great reputation. Why don't you form a foundation? And I'll never forget what he said, Greg, we cannot do that. I'm not very good at German accents, but I'm trying as hard as I can. And so, oddly enough, a couple of months later, I got a call from Dr. Moser, the call that I'm telling you about. And after the pleasantries that we went through, saying, hello, how are you? I'll never forget what he said. He says, Greg, I think this would be a good time to start a foundation. And ladies and gentlemen, that is how the foundation started. And that's why, by the way, we're incorporated in Indiana, because we were in Indianapolis at the time. And that's not the whole story. I mean, when you look at where this foundation has come from, that moment of inspiration, I'd like all the board members to stand up. Come on, guys, stand up. And I like everybody to applaud for them, because their stewardship led us to where we are today. Thank you, guys. Now, that's not the total story. Once we decided it was time to start a foundation, we decided we needed to have a meeting, and we went to Kennedy Krieger for our first meeting, where we elected the positions of the foundation. And During that period, Anne and Hugo invited us to stay at their house. And Anne, I'm sure that and Carolyn, thank you for that, but I wanted to tell you without any hesitation that I still have that memory. And I wanted to thank you for your hospitality. And there's a little bit more to this than just hospitality. The commitment and patience that researchers have. In fact, let me relate a story about one of these symposiums I was at, I don't know, 10, 15, 20 years ago. And I ran into a researcher from Mayo. She must have been 28, 29. She was a pediatric neurologist, and we're talking, and she says, I'm going back and getting my PhD in something I had no idea what she said. And she looked at me after that. She says, I don't know if I'm doing enough. And I was flabbergasted. And I'm walking around our days and I run into Anne, another researcher. And I go, Anne, how can I don't understand where they get their motivation. Greg, when you were a child, were you curious about things? Absolutely. I made my parents crazy. Well, a lot of the researchers we have today never lost that. And in thinking about this, after the years that you and I had that conversation, Anne, I have to tell you without a doubt that that's not the total story. Curiosity is important, but unless you have the patience and the dedication and the commitment to see that through, they're meaningless. So, Anne, I'd like you to stand up and let us applaud you. And ladies and gentlemen, my 5 minutes are up.
Yeah, thank you very much, Greg. Yeah, what you're saying also, I think, Anne, if Hugo would be here, would be very proud of you today. So, our next speaker is a pioneer, a dinosaur in leukodystrophy research. Jim, would you come up? Jim Powers.
Can't fault him for his accuracy. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. A famous adage states, behind every great man is a great woman. But what makes a woman great in this situation? Well, she obviously is a strong or even the supporter of the great man's achievements. She may be the initiator or the moving force for his great achievements. And sometimes it is unclear exactly what role the woman plays, because they are always seen as a single unit. Come on, you rascal. I had both the pleasure and privilege to come to know and begin to work on ALD with Hugo and Ann Moser around 1980. I continued working on ALD, AMN, and then other paroxysmal disorders with them for over 2 decades. To me, they were always a single unit. Certainly, Hugo displayed greatness in the field of the leukodystrophies, particularly ALD, paroxysmal disorders, and AMN. And in particular tonight, for his role in the ULF. Likewise, Anne's accomplishments in both spheres place her in the same position as Hugo, especially because she has continued to contribute in both spheres, even after Hugo's passing in 2007. They both share the same legacy of having made a lasting impact on our understanding and treatment of the leukodystrophies. However, Anne's greatness extends beyond this medical consideration. It has also been said that a great woman brightens up every space she enters with a genuine smile, effortless charm, and natural poise. She puts you and others at ease, making you feel on top of the world when you're together. Everything about her feels refreshing, and she leaves people feeling better than before. This too is Ann Moser. Today, we come together to celebrate your many achievements and to say thank you, Ann, for who and what you are.
Our next speaker is on a video. It's Paul Warkins. He is I think a companion for many years in the lab. I think we all miss him today here personally, but he has a video link so we can listen to his words online.
Well, hello, Anne, and hello, everyone else. I'm so sorry I can't be there to be with you in person at this special occasion, but I am here virtually with you and enjoying the proceedings of tonight. So Dr. Moser hired me back in 1984, and when I arrived there, one of the first people I met other than Dr. Moser was his wife, Anne. And Anne was very helpful to me as a young, at the time, young assistant professor who was just getting started. She was really instrumental in helping me set up my new lab space. Speaking of Hugo, Anne and Hugo always had such a special partnership. Both personally and professionally, they just complemented each other in so many ways. It was very, very special. After Hugo died in 2007, many of us expected Anne to transition to a well-deserved retirement in Maine or Western Massachusetts. As a matter of fact, we were scared that she was going to leave because she was not replaceable. Anne loves her work. Having too much fun to continuing her research, so retirement really wasn't an issue. If it's one fault Anne has, it's she's overly generous to a fault. She finds it difficult to say no to new research projects because she finds so much that's scientifically interesting to her. And as such, she's made immense contributions to research of countless investigators all over the world. In fact, if you look to see how many scientific journal articles that she's published, it's more than 150, and that's certainly an underestimation. One of the things that was so important to Anne was to carry on Hugo's legacy. Two areas come to mind immediately. One is in newborn screening. Anne tirelessly worked to, number one, set up an assay that would be appropriate for newborn screening for ALD and for other leukodystrophies. But she then spent countless hours, days, talking to government and other foundations and the Uniform Screening Panel personnel to get newborn screening on the map and into the state's repertoire of newborn screening. And for that, she deserves tremendous recognition. The other area that Hugo was always interested in was to find a cure for ALD. And one of the projects that I overtook before my retirement was to look at a collection of currently in use drugs to see if any of them might be a benefit to ALD. And with that work, we collaborated extensively, and we don't know whether the one drug that we found will have any promise in ALD, but we're very encouraged by that. Anne was always eager to talk about my research and offer help. She has a wealth of knowledge about lipids and fats and taught me many, many analytical skills. So she's been really instrumental to me throughout my career. As far as the ULF, Anne couldn't be more dedicated to the mission of the ULF. She loves talking to families and going to the scientific and family conferences. She and Dr. Moser were instrumental, along with Ron and Paula Brazil, to start the ULF. And one of the important things about going to the ULF meetings is that I know for me, and I'm positive for Anne as well, when you return from a ULF conference, it makes you just want to work harder to have things that will help the families. Anne loves her pets, she loves gardening, and loves entertaining visitors. She opened her house to so many numerous young investigators from other countries, some of whom perhaps overstayed their welcome, but her generosity is overwhelming. So Anne, I couldn't be more happy for you on this special day. I wish you all the best in continuing your research and having a wonderful life. Bye-bye.
Yeah, I think her hospitality is really legacy. I mean, I stayed several times at Moser's Hotel. Somebody say Moser, but it was really a wonderful atmosphere. It used to be in Roland Park to walk with Hacia, the dog, and then you came down from your bedroom and you come to Anne's kitchen and you see a person you have never seen before from Brazil or somewhere else. It was very, this is really life. I loved it. I loved it very much. So thank you again for this also. Yes. Well, our next speaker is Joe Hacia. Please come up.
Well, hello, everybody. My name's Joe Hacia. I'm on the faculty of the University of Southern California, and I've had the privilege of knowing Anne for about the last 15 years or so. And Anne gave me the greatest gift you could ever give a human being, a purpose in my life. To give a little bit of backstory of how I got to know Anne, I'm a basic scientist who was interested in human evolution many years ago, and I was working with the San Diego Zoo, of all places, and we began thinking about different ways in which humans differ from great apes, and what are the genetic basis for this. And we came up with a diet hypothesis at the time. I'm not sure if the hypothesis ever turned out to be true or not, but it actually did impact my scientific career, because we became interested in how humans process different types of fats in their diet, particularly different types of fats that could be neurotoxic that are present in meat. And as a result of this, we came up with this one fat that we became interested in called phytanic acid. And it's a very unusual one. And as I was looking through the internet and doing literature searches, there's only a few places in the world that were able to measure this type of fat, and one of them was at the Kennedy Krieger Institute in Baltimore. So I wrote Hugo Moser at the time, and he was very welcoming, and he offered me to come over to Baltimore, which is one of my favorite cities as an Orioles fan. And I met Anne and Hugo. And when I think of Anne, I think about community and I think about family, because she truly is family to me. And as a result of this, I met some amazing human beings like Paul Warkins. He's also family to me, and Nancy Braverman, a physician scientist at Johns Hopkins at the time. So Anne was the person who invited me to go to a ULF meeting in beautiful DeKalb, Illinois. And so I was talking about Bob, if we can be able to bring the meeting back to the Best Western. I mean, it's for those who have known, Bob could tell you many of the stories of the early days of the ULF parties in the Best Western. But it was there that I met a group of families who were affected by peroxisome biogenesis disorders, and in particular Zellweger spectrum disorders. And their stories touched my heart. I had lost my mom, a few years before to breast cancer, and I met a family in particular who I still keep up with, whose son they knew was going to pass in about a year, and they told me that they never wanted another human being to have to go through that. And I thought that was such a beautiful story of empathy and love that it touched my heart. And the reason I'm here is because Anne, opened my heart, and I'm a far better human being because of that. And so I've been working with Anne for the last 15 years, and it was about last July, I was over in Baltimore, which I frequently visit. And, and we were talking, and it became apparent that, well, maybe the time is now right that we try to think about ways for the ULF and other foundations that she has touched to try to continue her legacy. So I approached the ULF board, as well as the board of the Global Foundations for Peroxisomal Disorders, Rise of Kids International, and the Global DARE Foundation, to see if they would be able to support a trainee to begin to help carry on Anne's legacy. And as Paul mentioned, no one is going to truly carry on Anne's legacy. She is a one-of-a-kind, beautiful, awesome human being. But we have all come together, and we have a fellowship that will be in honor of Anne. I could say what a beautiful human being Anne is, that she was telling me that she only agreed to this gala tonight, to be able to raise funds and awareness for leukodystrophy research, because she has such a kind humility in her heart. And she always mentions, Hugo, but as was brought up by Dr. Powers, they were a team, and she has continued on the legacy as a team and has profoundly impacted many lives. So we love you, Anne. We have somebody lined up. We want to thank the Kenny Krieger Institute for helping to recruit a great person. And I'll just let you take back the mic. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Joe. I am wondering, do you know where DeKalb, Illinois is? Well, he was talking about it. Yeah, I mean, it's in the middle of nowhere, where there's cornfields, soybeans, and a ULF. And well, I cannot. It's very strange. You have the researchers from all over, sometimes 20 countries or even more, bringing to the middle of nowhere. And the only reason why this happens was they got well, Ron and Paul had a trick where they catch us with a stretch limousine. So we were welcome with a stretch limousine at Chicago Airport, and you think, wow, this is great. And then they bring you in the middle of the nowhere. So, but it was really great times. So our next video actually is from Tom Holyoke. He's a board member, or previous board member, I think, Joe, yeah. And well, let's see what he has to say in his video.
This is Tom Holyoke in Scottsbluff, Nebraska, part of the combination of Tom and Carol Holyoke, and parents of 2 children with metachromatic leukodystrophy that had both passed long ago. We first met Ann and Hugo Moser, I believe the summer of 1983 in Towson, Maryland. Now, it was probably the first family or annual conference for the United Leukodystrophy Foundation. That turned into quite an association with the Mosers that led to a lot of contact, a lot of activity, and a lot of wonderful experiences. We were aware that Hugo and Ann were a couple in a combination. Ann behind the scenes a little more perhaps than Hugo, but still ever present and her presence felt. We were fortunate to have been able to work through the Mosers to have one of the first transplants in the country, bone marrow transplants for MLD. And that took place at Johns Hopkins, of course, and sort of a joint effort between Hugo and Ann at the Kennedy Institute and Hopkins and a doctor by the name of Andrew Yeager. We were very fortunate to have that opportunity. So we saw Hugo Moser almost every day for 2 months. That began in November of 1984, and we actually didn't get out of Baltimore until March of 1985. I have a couple of distinct memories of especially Hugo Moser. The Hopkins physicians always wore white lab coats, and the Kennedy people always had blue lab coats. So every morning the cry would go out through the marrow unit that the blue coats are coming, the blue coats are coming. But every day, faithfully, Dr. Moser and or Dr. Knighting would come over and check up on our son Tyler. Then we became in contact with the Mosers on a different level after our children passed through the board of the ULF. I think we went on the board in something like 1989 and left the board in 2007. And during that time period, of course, there was a tremendous development of the foundation and so much development on the scientific end. And we know Ann was so much a part of that, and her work in the newborn identification and so forth is so valuable. And while Hugo was out there a bit as the face, why we certainly knew that Ann was ever present in the background and certainly in the labs. The Mosers were the most empathetic people I think I've ever met. They understood the pain and the heartbreak that the parents were going through, and they understood this intense desire to do something for their children. And it just was such a comfortable relationship with them. Nothing forced. It wasn't this screen between the professional and the family that so often exists. I can't imagine how we would have made it through our experience without Ann and Hugo Moser. I'm so sorry that we're not able to attend this celebration of the 40th year, and especially the recognition of Ann, and of course the ever-present shadow over the foundation of Dr. Moser. Thank you for this opportunity.
Our next speaker is Mai Wandeknap. I think everybody knows her. Please come up. If not, you got to know her in the near future, whenever. So she's a wonderful person, dedicated to leukodystrophies her whole life. So please, that's your fault.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, Anne, it's a pleasure and an honor that I have been invited to say a few words to you. We go back a long time. I think it was 1993 that you, Hugo, Jaap Valk, and I met at the leukodystrophy conference in Germany. And it was striking to me how inclusive you, Hugo, were. Everybody working in the leukodystrophy field was welcome. And it has been striking to me how that remained the same over the years. And I think this is essential for a field to grow, to be inclusive and invite everybody who's willing to contribute to the field. So we were invited to the ULF meeting next year right away, and we happily accepted. A couple of years after, I started to come to the Kennedy Krieger Institute for a couple of weeks every year, and we became personal friends and started to spend time together. One of the fond memories I have is that we went out to buy American cowboy boots for me. They were very expensive, and I still have them. They're beautiful. So last week, in anticipating honor of you, I wore them 3 days. I've come to know you as a very smart, dedicated, performing person, also very modest. You do everything what's good for families and patients quietly. Nobody hears about you. And I think it's in line with who you are that this gala is also a fundraiser for leukodystrophy. I'm speaking specifically to you because so many people talk about Hugo, but I think I need to speak to you. You can be very proud of your career. You have achieved so much. In my eyes, you are a monument of monumental size in the field of leukodystrophies, especially paroxysomal disorders, and then especially X-linked adrenoleukodystrophy. You changed the whole field. So that's something that's worth a monument. So perhaps the ULF will raise a monument for you. I hope it's not in the kelp. It should be in front of the Kennedy Krieger Institute. I hope that in the years to come, it will be good for you. I hope we will stay friends at heart, although we don't see each other much, but I'm pretty sure we are. And I hope that your dreams for the leukodystrophies and for the leukodystrophy field will come true, because they're very good dreams. And this is what I wanted to say to you, and thank you.
Thank you very much, Mario. So our next video will be Bill Rizzo. Unfortunately, he cannot be here this time, and I think he has something to say at the video. Please.
Hi, Anne. I want to take this wonderful opportunity to congratulate you and to recognize you as the person of interest in this wonderful gala that we're going to have tonight. Unfortunately, I couldn't be able to join, but I will say a few words that I would like to share. I'm thinking back and reminiscing about our involvement with the ULF, and I think I was probably seen there probably for the first time in 1985. So it goes way back. Back then, you'll recall that the ULF met in DeKalb for the meetings on a regular basis. We met in that hotel that is so infamous now, but had a lot of amenities that were useful for us. We met at the Northern Illinois University campus for some of the meetings, and we had a chance to walk there and walk back to the hotel to get around. I'll never forget the freight train that came through at 2 a.m. in the morning, and I'm sure you remember that as well. But we did have a lot of time and a lot of fun. We sat around at the pool, particularly at night, and enjoyed the company of everyone. And of course, we can't forget Ollie's ice cream and going there in the evening. So it was a wonderful time back then, but I think that your amenities and the location of this meeting probably trumps what we had back then. At least I hope it does. You've been involved in so many ways with the ULF right from the beginning that it's hard to really enumerate all the things you've done for the ULF over the years. Certainly, you've been involved in planning the family meetings, scientific meetings. You've met with families every time you've been out there. You've met with the scientists and had wonderful scientific discussions about various aspects of the leukodystrophies. You've really made so many contributions to the ULF that it's really hard to really list them all. There'd be no time to do that. I do remember some of the meetings that we had, particularly with Hugo and all the other scientists regarding ALD, which you have made such tremendous contributions to. Most importantly, I think, I remember the presentations that Hugo and you made regarding newborn screening for ALD. And your legacy certainly will be that you have brought this newborn screening to the forefront and have been very instrumental in having these patients, these children, these infants identified at birth. Certainly from the point of view of my involvement in Nebraska, I want to thank you personally about the contributions you've made in ALD research. So this is a nice night to enjoy, to celebrate, to meet friends, and to reminisce about the ULF and also your major involvement in it. So thank you again for what you've done for the ULF. Thank you for being here for all of us. Thank you for your scientific contributions, but more importantly, thank you for the personal contributions, not only to myself and many others, but also to the families that feel so grateful to you. Have a good night, enjoy, let your hair down, dance a little bit if you can, and just enjoy the night.
Yeah, thank you, Bill, for these nice words. So we now come to the younger ones. Florian, would you come up? Florian Eichler. Well, he's well, everybody knows you.
Thanks, Wolfgang. Yeah, I'm Florian Eichler, a neurologist at Mass General, and I guess I'm one of those people who came from abroad and overstayed their welcome at the Mosers that Paul Warkins was talking about. And I will say, coming more than 20 years ago to Baltimore and finding shelter and a home with the Mosers for several months was so meaningful, and also gave me the confidence to pursue a career and think I could contribute something in the field of leukodystrophies. And seeing from Anne that hard work and the kind of dedication that she showed day to day paid off, made all the difference. One story about Anne, I think, encapsulates what I think of her, and I know when one thinks of Anne in one breath together with Hugo. But when Anne first met Hugo, it was at McLean Hospital in Jordi Fulch-P's lab, and she recalls a story that she came to Hugo's lab to interview for a position as a lab technician, and Hugo was showing her around, and with his large, clumsy hands, he was waving these hands around, and several flasks on the bench fell over, and Anne thought, "Boy, this man needs help." And this sort of set the road for Anne helping Hugo for the coming decades. But I would say you didn't only help Hugo, you helped all of us. And you showed us how generous help and dedication and unwavering work can make such a difference in the field. And I thank you deeply for that. I was talking to my lab just an hour earlier saying, what can we really say about what Anne has done for us? And the unanimous quote was, she just never refuses any request and helps us where she can. So this spirit, I think, goes such a long way. And she does it with such a lightness and energy that reminds me that she's still young at heart. And I can almost picture the youthful energy from her Radcliffe days. And I think as we reflect upon a woman like Anne, on a day where we think that some of the constitutional rights of women might be in jeopardy, there couldn't be a better time to celebrate a woman like Anne, who's contributed so much and been so independent in spirit. So thanks so much, Anne.
Thank you, Florian. So our last speaker tonight is Ali Fatimi. Please come up, Ali. Okay.
Thanks, Wolfgang. Thank you. So, hello, everybody. I'm going to take a few minutes because I'm not just here by myself. I'm here representing the Kennedy Krieger Institute. They're watching you right there. There's a video connection. There's lots of people looking and watching this, those who couldn't make it here in person. And, at the Institute, the name Moser is enshrined. It's already a monument. Our research institute, part of our entity, is called the Hugo Moser Research Institute. The Center for Leukodystrophies is the Moser Center for Leukodystrophies. And as you just heard, we have the Moser Scholarship. So this is actually a program we started a few years ago. We've had international people coming in. And with the help of Joe and the ULF and others, we have secured funding and found the right person to come again and train again under Anne's leadership. So she's a role model for us for many reasons. And I'm going to highlight 6 of them. I came here 21 years ago, and the generosity, I think, is one of the strengths that is one of the most powerful things, and one of the reasons why she's a role model. The generosity she offered to me, she offered to Florian, she offered to Wolfgang, she offered to Mario. All of us came and visited the Kennedy Krieger Institute. This is a story that has gone back generations now, and it continues. We still have people coming into the Institute, and she takes them to her place. She treats them like her own child, and she continues doing that. She's generous with giving her time. she's giving an incredible amount of time doing work that just because she likes to do it, because she likes to help people. She provides free testing for people in third world countries that can't afford paying for the testing. She continues doing that every single day, including right now. Like, she's going to go back, and I can guarantee you Anne will be in the lab next week. She'll be busy. Well, maybe she takes off for a week. I'm not sure about her travel plans, but so the other reason why she's a role model is because of her brilliance. Make no mistake, the Mosers were a perfect pair, like a yin and yang. Hugo's greatest strength was his imperfection, because Anne's greatest strength is her perfection. If it wasn't for Anne, we would not have the very long-chain fatty acid assay that allowed to diagnosis of ALD. This is something that she really led. She was really the person who led the efforts to discover newborn screening methodologies for ALD. The University at Hopkins recognized this, and even though Anne does not have a doctorate degree, in 2016, she became an associate professor in neurology. And the reason when this was reviewed through the committee at Hopkins was that at that time, she had 200 publications. And some people were like, well, these were all Hugo's. Not true at all. At that time, from those 200 publications, 60 of them were published after Hugo's passing. So this was Anne's effort, and it continues. Right now, we are, I think, around 235 or so publications. So Anne continues to contribute, and there is innovation. That's another reason. And she's always up to develop new methods. The one thing that makes me the most scared every morning is, what am I going to do without her? That's, I think, why Joe wakes up every morning being scared. What are we going to do? Because she's the one who knows how to develop these assays, these methods that nobody else in the world can do. That is unbelievable, and that's something that we are going to miss. But there are many other strengths, and you heard about some of them. One of it, and that's important for the people back home to hear, is the work ethics. Like, we all feel bad when we see Anne because she's always working the longest hours. She's always there. And it's so passionate. Like, I'll give you an example. When there is a snowstorm and people can't go to the institute because nobody wants to drive on the roads in Baltimore. Well, in Baltimore, that means basically a little bit of rain. That's what we call it. But anyway, she would be the one who would go in because she doesn't want the fibroblast cells to die. And she would go and change the media. So this is something that most of us wouldn't really care about, but she does it. That's the work ethics. That's always there. But maybe the most important thing that why she's a role model is the fact that she's so humble. She is always the person that has to be pointed out because she will not ever point herself out. And that's something that we can really learn, I think, especially for the young scientists here. The one thing that you can learn from Anne the most is that it's not about us researchers. It's not about our careers. It's about the people we serve. And that's exemplified exactly by what she does. So thank you for what you do. On behalf of the entire institute, there's 2,600 people who aspire to be like you. And I'm forever grateful for being sort of one of your adoptive children. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ali. So now I think it's clear we all are very grateful for your wonderful contributions to the science and to advance our understanding, diagnosis and treatment of the leukodystrophies. But in addition, I want to emphasize the point, your tireless supporting the ULF over the many years from its inception. And this is, I think, so important to talk to families here at these meetings, to contribute to the scientific part of the meeting, to be part of the medical and scientific board for many, many years. All these is very helpful. And so I think there's no one who more deserves our gratitude and our deepest thanks. Please come up to me. And I have the great honor to present you, in the name of the ULF, this wonderful rose.
They must know how I love flowers. It's a beautiful flower. Just want to say greetings to my family, my friends, my colleagues, and to the entire ULF families. Thank you so much for this wonderful honor to help support a postdoctoral fellow who will be coming to Kennedy Krieger Institute, we hope, this summer. You know, I've retired, but I continue working about 20 hours a week, but I want to gradually reduce that as the postdoctoral fellow takes over some of the analyses that I'm doing. And so I really, really appreciate the support from the United Leukodystrophy Foundation and from the Global Foundation for Peroxisomal Disorders and from the DARE Foundation and Rezo Kids International. And I thank the Kennedy Krieger Institute for allowing this to happen and engineering the position and getting a visa for the young physician scientist from Arabia, who we hope will join the laboratory very soon. I have many fond memories of being at the United Leukodystrophy over the years, first with the Hoffers and meeting all the young scientists and senior scientists that attended the meetings and meeting the families. And over the years, many have gone on, but I think that I think we made a difference. I think the ULF has made a difference in the lives of many families. Of course, I miss my husband, Hugo. I have many, many fond memories of traveling with him, particularly when he was on the board of the International Child Neurology. We used to scope out exotic meeting venues, like going to Egypt and many other places. We went to China several times, and we went around the world and saw a lot of different hospitals, met a lot of different leukodystrophy families and physicians who cared for them. So when I retired, my family said, well, now you can travel. But I've already done that. I've been everywhere with Hugo. So I think my place is to remain in Baltimore and see that Hugo's legacy will carry on. There's still a lot of work to be done. And I am so grateful for your funding this position, because I know that the work will continue better with a young person. As I am getting older, I'm going to reduce my hours. So thank you very much for your accolades and well wishes and thanks. I really appreciate this evening. Thank you very much.